There is an old saying about boats that you have probably heard, and if you have not, you are about to, and it is going to stick with you. The two happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day they buy the boat and the day they sell it. And look, that is a joke. But like all good jokes, it is funny because it is painfully true. And the reason it is painfully true is rooted in some very real financial math that we are going to walk through today. Now, here is the thing. We are not here to tell you boats are bad, or that wanting one makes you irresponsible, or that the lifestyle is not worth chasing. Because the lifestyle is real. There is genuinely nothing like being out on the water. The freedom of it, the quiet, the way a good day on a boat feels completely separate from everything happening on land. We get it. But this channel is called Better Investments, and our job is to tell you the truth about what things actually cost and what they actually return. And the truth about boats is that they are one of the most financially destructive things a middle-class person can own if they go in without understanding what they are getting into. So today, we are going to cover all of it. What boats actually cost beyond the purchase price, the depreciation reality, the cases where boat ownership can actually make some financial sense, and the smarter alternatives that get you most of the lifestyle at a fraction of the cost. Welcome to Better Investments. Let us start with the purchase price, because this is where most people anchor, and it is the least important number in the whole conversation. Say you find a decent used recreational boat, maybe a 25-foot bow rider or a mid-size cabin cruiser, something that feels like a real boat but is not completely out of reach. You might be looking at anywhere from $40,000 to $100,000 for something in reasonable condition, depending on the age, brand, and market. Brand new, you are looking at significantly more. A new 25-foot quality bow rider from a reputable manufacturer can easily run $60,000 to $90,000. Step up to a 35-foot cruiser and you are at $200,000 to $400,000 without blinking. Go larger and the numbers go essentially vertical. But okay, let us say you find something in that $60,000 used range. You feel good about the price. You finance it over 15 years at current rates. Your payment is manageable. You are thinking about weekends on the water, and you are already planning the first trip. Here is what you have not yet thought about. Marina storage or a slip. If you are on the coast or any major lake, you need somewhere to put this thing. A slip at a decent marina in most metro-adjacent water markets runs anywhere from $500 to over $2,000 a month, depending on location and boat size. Call it $800 a month conservatively. That is $9,600 a year just for parking. Dry storage is cheaper, but adds the hassle of haul and launch fees every time you want to use it. Insurance. A $60,000 boat will cost you somewhere between $1,500 and $3,000 a year to insure, depending on the type of boat, your boating history, where you keep it, and what waters you operate in. Offshore-capable boats cost significantly more to insure. Maintenance. This is where boats absolutely destroy people financially. The marine environment is one of the harshest on any mechanical system that exists. Salt water is corrosive. UV light degrades everything. Hulls need to be cleaned and painted. Engines need to be serviced far more frequently than a car engine, and marine mechanics charge rates that will make your eyes water. The common rule of thumb in the boating world is to budget 10% of the boat's value per year in maintenance. On a $60,000 boat, that is $6,000 a year in an average year. And boats do not have average years. They have years where everything is fine, and then a year where the engine needs a rebuild, or the outdrives need replacing, or you get a hull blister situation, and you are suddenly looking at a $15,000 or $20,000 repair bill that you did not see coming. Winterization and seasonal prep. In any market that has cold winters, you need to winterize the engine, the plumbing, the systems, every fall, and de-winterize every spring. If you do this yourself, you save money, but it takes time and expertise. If you pay a Marina to do it, which most people do, you are looking at several hundred to over $1,000 each time. Fuel. Boats are extraordinarily inefficient compared to cars. A typical stern drive or inboard engine gets somewhere between 1 and 3 miles per gallon. Marine gas in many areas costs more than regular gas. A full day on the water can burn through $50 to $150 in fuel easily. A weekend trip somewhere can cost $300 to $500 just in gas. Registration and taxes. Every state has its own system, but annual registration fees and property taxes on boats in many states are not trivial, especially on larger or newer vessels. So let us add this up honestly. On a $60,000 boat, you might be looking at marina slip costs, insurance, maintenance, winterization, fuel, and registration totaling somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000 per year in operating costs before you make a single loan payment. Add a loan payment on top of that, and you are potentially spending $30,000 to $35,000 a year to own a $60,000 asset per year. And now let us talk about what that asset is doing to its value while you spend all that money on it. Boats depreciate hard. A new boat loses somewhere between 15 and 20% of its value in the first year alone. By year 3, you are looking at 30 to 40% gone. By year 5, you might have 50 cents on the dollar if you bought new. The depreciation curve is not as steep on the secondary market if you bought used, but the direction is the same. Down. Boats do not appreciate. With extremely rare exceptions involving specific vintage or collectible vessels, there is no investment thesis for a boat. There is no equity being built. There is no asset appreciating on your balance sheet. There is only a depreciating liability that costs a significant amount of money every single year to maintain the privilege of owning. And here is the usage reality that makes all of this even more painful. The average recreational boat in America is used approximately 11 days per year. 11 days. Some surveys put it even lower. The boat sits in its slip or in storage for 354 days a year, accumulating depreciation and racking up costs while you think about using it more than you actually do. Life gets in the way. Weather gets in the way. The prep time and the logistics of actually getting the boat out and back get in the way. What felt like something you would use every weekend turns into something you use on the occasional holiday weekend and a few summer days. And every one of those days you do use it is costing you not just the direct costs of that outing, but a proportional share of the enormous fixed costs of ownership. If you use the boat 11 days a year and your total annual ownership cost is $20,000, you are spending roughly $1,800 per day on the water. For a day trip, on a boat you own. Now let us be fair and talk about the cases where boat ownership can make more financial sense, because they exist, even if they are rarer than most boat buyers expect. Charter income is the first one. If you own a boat that qualifies for charter and you are in a market with strong demand, and you are willing to deal with the logistics of managing a charter business or working with a charter management company, you can offset a meaningful portion of your costs. Popular boating markets like the Florida Keys, the Bahamas, the Great Lakes and coastal New England have real demand for day charters and bareboat charters. A well-managed charter operation on a suitable vessel can generate $20,000 to $60,000 or more in annual revenue. Whether that offsets your costs depends entirely on the vessel, the market, and the management. The reality is that most boats are not well suited for charter, either because of their type, their condition, their location, or the regulatory complexity of running a charter business. And the wear and tear of charter use accelerates the maintenance costs significantly. But for the right person, with the right boat, in the right market, it is a real consideration. The liveaboard lifestyle is the second case worth examining. Some people solve the Marina cost problem by living aboard their boat, rather than paying for both housing and slip fees. If you can live aboard comfortably, and the slip fee is significantly less than what you would otherwise pay in rent or mortgage costs, there can be a genuine financial logic to it. Liveaboard life has real trade-offs in terms of space, climate, and convenience, but it has a passionate community of people who would not trade it for anything. And if it genuinely replaces your housing cost rather than adding to it, the financial picture looks quite different. The third case is buying the right used boat at the right price in cash with no financing. The loan payment is one of the most brutal parts of the boat ownership math. If you can buy a well-maintained older vessel outright with no debt and your usage patterns genuinely support ownership, the total cost of ownership becomes much more manageable. A $15,000 cash purchase of a solid, older outboard boat with modest operating costs that you genuinely use frequently is a completely different financial proposition than a financed $80,000 cruiser sitting in an expensive slip. The fourth case is equity in a boat club or fractional ownership arrangement. Boat clubs like Freedom Boat Club and similar operations let you pay a monthly membership fee, typically somewhere between $200 and $600 a month, depending on the market and fleet quality, and in return, you get access to a rotating fleet of maintained boats whenever you want to use one. No storage cost, no maintenance responsibility, no depreciation hit, no surprise repair bills, just the membership fee and fuel when you use it. For most recreational boaters who are honest about how often they would actually get out on the water, a boat club membership delivers 80% of the lifestyle at maybe 20% of the cost of ownership. It is genuinely one of the smarter ways to have access to boating without the financial consequences of ownership. Here is the framework for making an honest decision about boats. 1. Track how many days per year you actually use boats right now before you own one. If you go out on friends' boats or rentals a handful of times a year, the ownership math almost certainly does not work in your favor. If you are genuinely out on the water every possible weekend, you might be a candidate for ownership. Be honest with yourself about this, because it is the most important variable. 2. Calculate the true, all-in annual cost before you commit. Add up the slip or storage insurance, maintenance, fuel, winterization, registration, and loan payment. Divide by the realistic number of days you will use it. If that number per day on the water makes you wince, trust the wince. 3. Consider a boat club or fractional membership for at least a year before buying. Use it as much as you would use your own boat. See if the lifestyle lives up to the fantasy. You will either confirm that you want the full ownership experience, or you will discover that the club membership satisfies the itch at a fraction of the cost. 4. If you do decide to buy used in cash or with the shortest loan possible, and buy a vessel that is known for reliability and manageable maintenance costs. Some brands and hull types are dramatically cheaper to maintain than others. Research this obsessively before you buy. 5. Be honest about the emotional component. Almost everyone who buys a boat is buying a feeling as much as a vessel. The freedom, the identity, the lifestyle, signal. None of that is wrong, but it needs to be acknowledged honestly, so you are making the decision with clear eyes about what you are actually paying for. Here is the bottom line. A boat is almost never a good investment in the financial sense of that word. It depreciates, it costs a fortune to operate, and it does not generate returns. What it can be is a genuinely wonderful way to spend your time and money if boating is a core part of how you want to live your life, and you go in with a completely honest accounting of what it is going to cost you, and you can genuinely afford it without it compromising your actual financial well-being. The mistake is not buying a boat. The mistake is buying a boat while telling yourself it is somehow financially smart, or that the costs will be less than they are, or that you will use it way more than the average owner does. Go in clear-eyed. Know what you are paying for. And if the lifestyle genuinely justifies the cost for you, then enjoy every minute of it. Just do not call it an investment. Next time on Better Investments, we are moving from the water to the office park. Commercial real estate, strip malls, warehouses, office buildings, apartment complexes. Is this where real generational wealth gets built? Or is it a completely different animal from residential real estate in ways that most people do not understand? We are going to break down the whole world of commercial property and whether it belongs anywhere in your financial picture. Subscribe so you do not miss it. And if this video saved you from a very expensive mistake, share it with someone who has been dreaming about buying a boat. I will see you next time.